All right, everyone. My name is Pascal Borel, and I'm speaking to you from the Swiss mountains, as you can see. I want to do a summary of what's going on between Switzerland and the US, in particular with, of course, Donald J. Trump and his government cabinet. Switzerland has been not only threatened but imposed tariffs up to 39% of on every single good that is being exported from Switzerland to the US. And let's face it, that is a punition, because you're not without knowing. It's a punishment, should I say. It's a punishment in the sense that it is one of the only countries that has been punished with excessive tariffs, i.e. tariffs which are much higher than what was disclosed in April. And the reason for that is because the Swiss politicians are opposing Donald J. Trump and Elon Musk on their immense efforts to render the situation more transparent in terms of how is being used the taxpayer dollar of the US citizens. Let's face it, it is unacceptable. Switzerland has been used as a laundering machine over the last 10-20 years. Since the abolishment of the Swiss banking secrecy, the politician transformed this scheme, or the fact that the bankers were making most of the money, and they wanted to get this money for themselves. And therefore, they've organized with OGs, or GOs, should I call them, and not NGOs, which are governmental organizations rather than non-governmental organization, but they could be called NGOs in order to fool you, in order to take you away from the reality of things. All those organizations are there to launder money. It is crazy. And let's face it, the Swiss government people, our politicians, are going to Washington in order to protect this obscene source of revenues of theirs. And this is totally unacceptable. When you oppose I would say, management exercise which targets at giving back to the people its sovereignty, when you make sure that this huge effort that has been put in place through DOGE, Department of Governmental Efficiency, to make it transparent the use of the taxpayer dollar. When you want to make people responsible, they've gone through USAID, dismantling it completely. They've gone through the Department of Education, dismantling, or dismissing, should I say, all the people which were abusing of the money generated through education, making sure that the students would not get the benefits of how the money should be used. When you see, they've done it for the Department of Education, for health, in the Department of Health, where they finally stopped paying people which were between 100 and 150 years old, still getting money. Where was all this money going? It is a fabulous exercise, and we should thank the strength of Donald J. Trump and Elon Musk putting this scheme in place. But Switzerland is far too corrupt, is making so much money out of this laundering scheme that they're now opposing or trying to negotiate with the people, bringing back its sovereignty to the people, to preserve the obscene revenues that they're making out of this. This is crazy bad. And this is why Switzerland is being punished, like Brazil was punished for the lack of freedom of speech, like China was punished for unfair commercial practices, like India is being punished with 50% tariffs because they import Russian oil and gas. And the Swiss are placing themselves even lower because they are the shame of planet Earth today from a financial point of view. They're trying to oppose a third-party oversight principle, a transparency exercise that Elon Musk and Donald J. Trump is suggesting they do. And when it would be so easy for the Swiss to negotiate, they would say, okay, we stop the money laundering, we stop the the governmental organization, we stop all of this, and they could even say, in exchange of that, give us back this banking secrecy, which offers, I would say, a fiscal haven. I hate speaking this way, but it's true, a protection to any citizens throughout the world against the institutionalized theft of the state. And they could negotiate something like that. But if they go there just as a revenue protection exercise, do you think this is going to work? Well, my dear, of course not. And this is what's happening. Let me take my note. Am I missing on something? Yeah, I could go through which are the people, the physical bodies that are doing it. They're sending our president, Mrs. Karine Keller-Sutter, plus Mr. Guy Parmelin. And the gentleman is meant to negotiate with Trump's governmental cabinet. He doesn't speak a word of English. Is this serious? Is this called respect? Is this called... No, man, it doesn't work that way. And furthermore, just a little addition, the Swiss do not want to enter Europe, the European community. They have a kind of, I was going to call it, farmer's wisdom. When they see their neighbors doing something which is totally wrong, which is completely dysfunctional from a financial, political point of view, from a purchasing power point of view, where taxes are as high as it possibly gets. Of course, the Swiss do not want to copy a dysfunctional model. And they've expressed themselves through votes, through, at least 4, 5, 6, 7 times. But the Swiss, namely Ignacio Cassis and Beat Jean, or Jans, however you spell it or pronounce it, they are the European turbo master. They absolutely want Switzerland to join the EU despite the will of the people, because they're going to make even more money. They're going to, basically comply with even more corruption. And again, why aren't the Swiss politicians going to Washington and with a concrete proposal saying, okay, we cut through the sea and we acknowledge your efforts to give back the people their sovereignty. But no, they are just in a cash protection or revenue protection exercise. And this is such a shame, because what Elon Musk and Donald Trump and the whole cabinet in the US is doing will be acting like a tsunami on those who are unfair player, who are corrupt, who are dishonest with their own people. Because once the motion, is active and the speed has been taken by the US, from an economic point of view, they'll be unstoppable. And all those who don't comply with transparency, those who don't comply with an honest approach of taxes and regulations, will be out of the game and will have to comply, because the economic advantage that Trump will bring back to the US is going to be, as I said, like a tsunami. And it will force our European politicians, Switzerland first, to comply with what is honest to do for their own citizens. And we should thank those people for the strength, for their courage in order to impose this and bring back people on the right track. I thank Donald J. Trump, I thank Elon Musk, Marco Rubio, G.D. Vance, Tulsi Gabbard, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and all the others. They are amazing. Thank you so much. And please, please do whatever it takes to make this Switzerland direct democracy a pride for all the Swiss citizens and not the shame of planet Earth. I had to do a video a few months ago about the WEF shame of Switzerland. And then I had to do a video, Geneva shame of Switzerland. And now I have to do a video about my own country called Switzerland shame of planet Earth from a financial point of view, because I am within a nation that resists the change. And you should always know, what is painful is not change, is the resistance to change which is painful, and we'll have to suffer it. That's absolutely clear. So please, USA, thank you so much for what you're doing and bringing our own politicians in the service of the Swiss people. May I thank you for your benevolent and kind attention. May peace be with you and all people of the planet. Peace out.